Hello my friends, welcome to our channel Gamebysk. So we are talking here today about the tricks and tips and some settings for this Gameloop emulator for Codm gameplay, and with this kind of settings we can achieve lag free and smoothest gameplay. Okay, so let's start into it. Okay, so first we have to switch it to the game settings, Gameloop settings from the game screen. So this is the Gameloop settings. In the Gameloop window, we could go to the settings from the top right bar. So here we can see that basic settings for the Gameloop, and which is applicable for also low end game PC and also high end PC. I once had a low end PC, but right now I have i5 10600K, 16 GB RAM and 3060 RTX OC. So first we are gonna do the basic low end gaming PC, and we had to do the HD 720p default settings, which is already done by default from the installation of this Gameloop. But if you have like GTX 660 or greater, not 1660, 660 greater, then you could do the HD 1080p settings, which is better suitable. And if you got a 16 series graphics card, NVIDIA 1650 series graphics card, then you could place that settings on the FHD, like 2K full HD 1920 by 1080p settings. But remember, whatever you choose the quality or resolution, even when you have the greatest graphics card, the max settings will be this FHD 2K. okay, because by the way, if you don't have the resolution of your monitor with 1920 by 1080, if you got below with that like this, then it should be great. Okay, and also FHD 2K is good, but now we are moving for one more thing. There is another display resolution for a monitor, that is 2560 by 1440, which is also known as 2.5K resolution, right? So even with that, we have to choose FHD 2K, and that's the max settings for the game or the emulator. Okay, like Call of Duty and Apex Legends both. And also the graphics quality should be smooth even when you have the FHD 2K resolution or 2.5K monitor or 720p anything, because there is a one key configuration button which chose the mobile formation or mobile model, any mobile model, common model, like Asus, anything, Samsung, Xperia and Huawei for the lowest division, right? So they chose a couple of model presetted for these kind of emulator games, and this one key configuration is the button to choose to select the particular or certain mobile model for your game emulator according to your gaming PC setup, right? So even if that's a low end or high end or mid end, it would choose optimally, and everyone should follow that rules to click the one key configuration. Don't go otherwise, or don't select any other model. Once I did choose the other model and the result was not good, so after that you should save the main graphic settings and the model selection. You should save this everything. But here the Apex Legends settings are also not optimized for this game emulator Gameloop, and I tried once and it did not give any optimal result. So after that we have to go to the settings of game engine. Before going to that, the one key configuration and the game engine, game graphics and the model settings would be saved. In the engine settings, there are so many parts to tell, right? So Gameloop always prefers that OpenGL Plus settings, but in the PC game, DirectX Plus is the main rendering engine. So I once set the settings with OpenGL. There is some tearing with graphics in Gameloop and either Codm or Apex Legend. So sometimes there is an in-game lag and the map rendering will be very terrible. There is a grayscale glitch or something like that. So I chose auto, and you should choose also, because the Gameloop also have these settings automatically adapted to OpenGL. So that's why it don't work on DirectX. So obviously it's going to be on the OpenGL. So even if you choose auto, it would get the same result as OpenGL, and I might personally prefer the auto settings. Right now, check all the boxes except vertical sync and ADB debugging. Okay. Most of the settings will be by default on, like the rendering cache, but the discrete graphics card settings have to be on by manual, and others should be off or on. You have to check on that. So this root authority, it may assign the emulator to have the root permission to allow on the model you chose, and then rendering optimization must be enabled. But the discrete graphics card settings should be depending on your PC rig. Like you have the medium or high-end graphics card, you should check on that. But if you have the basic graphics settings or basic low-end PC, you may leave that unchecked. And the rendering cache, both cache memory should be checked. Okay, so and important is the vertical sync and the anti-aliasing should be off, because they may cause the skin tearing. Okay, and not even balanced or ultra, just off, because the game has already the default settings in game for the anti-aliasing and the vertical sync, so you don't have to check on the emulator settings. Okay, so what this does is sync FPS and the in-game frame rate to your monitor, but your monitor is always trying to set that with your game graphics. So in-game settings, if has been changed, then the frame rate will be tiered. So no vertical sync and also no anti-aliasing. So now I have to come to the memory and the processor settings in engine. So if a low game PC have the 4GB or 8GB RAM, as I have the 16GB RAM, so I should prefer automatic only, because if you like bound the settings to 4GB or 8GB, the processor might be bounded upon to the process that on exact amount of the RAM could crash your Gameloop, right? And in processor settings also, there is a saying that now no PC game ever have used more than 6 core from the processor. So when I told that I have i5 10600K, it has 6 core 12 thread, so it's okay to have that, but I also prefer to choose it on automatic mode. And in case of memory also, I choose automatic even when I have 16GB, and when you have 8GB or 4GB memory, you should have also done the automatic mode. Okay, right? And also there is a heat factor. The cooling fan I have is Gamebysk V2 400, I think, blue RGB. Links are in the description below. But I don't have any CPU heating issue or there is any cooling issue. There is a page of my task manager. So this is my processor i5 10600K with base frequency 410 GHz, and it would goes up to 4.5 boost frequency. This is a 6 core 12 thread, and also a virtualization enabled. Yeah, this is a thing that you can do in BIOS. If you don't know how to do it, go to the Google search and find it. But if you want me to do a video on that, please let us know by commenting down the chat box. then we will do a video on that, how to activate the virtualization. Okay, so the memory I have 16 GB on 2600 megahertz, 2666, but actually my motherboard XMP profile support up to 2900 megahertz, but when I bought those RAM, they have like 3200 megahertz Corsair Vengeance Pro Black and with CL16 class 16, and there is my GPU NVIDIA RTX 3060 OC 12GB VRAM, and the temperature is very decent, 57 degrees Celsius. So mainly there is a 12GB for dedicated GPU memory, and the share memory is 8GB, and total would be 20GB, right? So 2GB is from the 12GB dedicated card memory and 0.1GB from the 8GB shared memory. So there is a 2.1GB, and in the memory section you can see that there is a 7.6GB something is using right now, and those shared memory are from that RAM, which is controlled or commanded by the CPU. But this is right now is a so decent position or situation during Gameloop running, but I am not in game. So 63 degrees Celsius is almost like decent according to my ambience. So here is a new settings called tool set or toolkit from emulator Gameloop. There is a settings for FPS counter, and it's showing like 30, 20, 29, but it's not actual. So it's a Gameloop inbuilt FPS counter. You could use that, but there is no like important information you could get with this, and I would like to mainly check for the first time, then I basically turned it off. And so here in the Gameloop settings, again the game and the graphics and the model has been completed, and in the engine there is we are talking about RAM and CPU. So CPU is automatic, RAM is automatic. There is no reason to worry about, because whether you have a low-end gaming PC, then you may have the 2 or 4 core processor, and if you have a high-end PC like or mid-end PC, you may have 6, 8 or 16 core processor, right? But it must be set on the automatic section, because if you do put it on a certain number of the processor core, then it might be bounded. The emulator should always bounded to use that much of the core you have selected, when even if it's not needed, right? So that might crash sometime, that might malfunction, that might not work for this emulator sometime. So I prefer memory section and the processor section should be automatic, because I have changed these settings once to 4 core, because I have 6 core, and once I have changed it to 8 core, but it always crashed on the 8 core selection, but on the 4 core selection it doesn't make any difference on gameplay performance, right? So I left it by default settings. But right now, whatever I told you about the settings, I got it from Discord server of official Gameloop. You may also connect with them and you could talk about this kind of settings. They will also tell you the same thing almost as what I did here. So next, there is a screen DPI settings, but first time I used a 480p settings because I thought it would be great, it would be better. But whenever I thought about that, this is a mobile emulation of Android in your PC. So this mobile thing, every kind of model they have enlisted, they all have like below 400 ppi settings. So it would be great or better to have below 400 dpi, like 320, or I don't think 400 would be great, 320 or below it would be better for your gameplay synchronicity and just very good frame rate and also no stuttering graphics, right? And that's what everyone wanted. So this is the basic rules of this. Just think it as a mobile device and put it below the 400 dpi. If you have any query for this further, then you could comment down below or go to the Discord server link given below. Next, there is a audio thing. The audio playback device should be your speaker or your headphone. You may choose. Like here, I have a headphone device, so that's enlisted on the first place. In the second slot, I have a speaker. I basically chose the sound to the speaker. Okay, the second device is that headphone. And in game, if you are in game, you cannot change any playback or audio input device while you are playing. So after you have changed, you have to reboot the emulator. So that's why you have to choose it carefully, and whatever you have, whatever you like or prefer, you must choose. As well as in the recording device or input device, as the first slot has my Realtek speaker device, so there is a first slot of USB condenser and the second slot will be the headphone mic, right? Because when you have a headphone with mic, you may choose that you don't want to use the mic part of this headphone, right? So okay, this is audio channel and direct channel should be must preferred, because wave out format is a already backdated format. Direct channel is most recently, not most recently, nearly recently audio channel format. And so that the Discord developer team, also many other team suggested that this is the best direct sound. Okay, so this is the whole thing about the engine settings, the game settings, the model settings, display, everything. You must save this after doing all these settings. Remember, the model choice is very crucial. The one key configuration is also important, right? Before jump into the game, please reboot the emulator as well as your PC. That way you can get the most efficiency and the effectiveness of this kind of settings with all these correct parameters, right? Okay, so resolution thing also is very important. The DPI, audio, these are the main primary settings. These are the basic. After that, go to the basic settings and there is a all default, you should left. But you could change the explorer path where the snapshot will be saved. You could change that. You could change that to your another device, another drive or partition or any other folder location. And there is a language settings. English is always default, and the country or district. But depending on this kind of settings, depending on this parameter, there is nothing to offer in game like ping, latency, server, anything. So this is the mainly basic part. Okay, so let's go to the details, game details page. This the main thing of your server. In here you could see that this is a Southeast Asia, Europe and Vietnam server. So right now I am playing with Europe server, and it is pretty much greater than the Southeast Asia server, is SEA server. I thought so, and you could also try any other server and also comment down below to inform that how you feel or how you experience with this. Okay, so if you think that the server changing might get you a delay with matchmaking, then it would be just like a practice. After some day, for the first few days it may be taking So delay may be taking much time. So here is the version which is latest, and also let's go back to the game settings, and in game there is graphics, and these settings is the best for FPS boosting. So this is what it happened, that if I choose the high graphics quality, then frame rate will be max, but if I choose the medium graphics quality, the frame rate will be ultra, which is a really FPS boosting, and it's only available or applicable for MP. Okay, that's why it written MP only. But for the low end PC, I prefer high or very high, not max, not ultra, so that it could not just overpower or overprocess the CPU or GPU. And if you choose the graphic settings in very high or high quality, then automatically frame rate will be decreased, and there will be some in-game lag, right? So I prefer for medium and low end PC, that high or very high should be great. And if you have a high end PC, then go to max or ultra settings, which will be only applicable for MP only. But even if you have high, low or mid end PC, you have to choose dynamic in the graphic style. It's only for BR mode, of course, not in MP. And the real-time shadows, real-time scope, realistic, that would be just another dimension of graphics, which should be applicable for high-end PC. I don't recommend to this on the medium-end PC, not at all in low-end PC. But also other settings are also disabled because they don't like support on this emulator mobile model. So now there is some parameters, anti-aliasing, real-time shadows, bloom and depth of field. So they also describe what it does, right? So bloom produces the fringes or feather of the light extending from the border of the bright areas. So there is a difference, you can see that off condition and on condition. And the real-time shadow is also very important and useful thing in game, mainly for battle royale, because object real-time shadows is visible if enabled. So you could see the enemy's reflection if they are on the opposite side of the light source, and also they can see too if they had these settings enabled. Okay, the next thing is very important and useful thing, not everybody could like focus on. So anti-aliasing is a reducing of the effect or aliasing in the scene if enabled, because if aliasing effect is enabled, is always occurred, problem happened is any object edge will be teared. So anti-aliasing would be get by on in game. Depth of field is when enabled, background becomes blurred and aiming downside, because when you scope in, the nearest object will be clearer and the farthest object will be blurred, right? And also the side of object from the scope border will be blurred. So these are the things for battle royale, zombies and multiplayers, and they has all like the same thing, the same settings or the effect. The multiplayer, but battle royale they have some more thing, water reflection, god ray. These two settings are also for just aesthetics, for looks, not just any amplification or impression for gaming performance, just only display performance. So whatever you may think, you choose. Last, shader preload, this is the main thing. It's effectively reduce in-game lag, right? So that's what it is written. So during this process you cannot do any other thing. So if I do this, if I press this begin shader preload, there is a confirmation question and it says can effectively reduce lag in game. Note that during the preloading process you cannot perform other operation, right, except cancel. So you have to give some minutes according to your device or emulator or model selection. The time will be different. So preload, after preloading you must restart the emulator, and I also prefer you must restart the PC also, yes, or you can exit the emulator from your hidden icon settings and just reloading and restarting the process again from the zero. Okay, sorry. Okay, so these are the main things, and also you could tell us more if I have mistaken or something I have skipped. But now there is also a thing that HD resource pack in the download section, download manager. After downloading the HD resource pack, somebody a few of my friends didn't even downloaded all this. So after downloading that you must have to do that shader preload thing again. I think first you should download the HD resource pack and then go to start shader preload. That would be more effective, right? Because if you preload the shader pack and then you downloaded the HD resource pack, then some resource pack would not be preloaded on the shader, right? And also there is a pop-up for RAM cleaning, which you can activate in game, in match, whenever you think. So it's a very good addition to this kind of operation or features with this version of Gameloop emulator, and I think this is very good to have. So these are the main settings, and mostly they become useful and effective to me. And also, yeah, there is a toolkit section, and these kind of settings are also known and given before on the previous session. And now key mapping is a very crucial, very important. So I don't prefer that you should change these three settings: the wheel, the M-pad and the fire button, and also this control button. I might have shifted this position, but here is also a checkbox for this display tips in the secondary settings. Primarily, if you could have memorized, then you could check that box off, but if you can't rememorize, then you must check it on. And there is a battle key mapping mode, battle royale, multiplayer and zombie. OB is for zombie mode. So sometime what is happen that if you go into the battle royale, something like Blitz or Warfare, they automatically choose to multiplayer, right? So you have to check that box, uncheck that box, then change it to battle royale and save, because sometime it thinks that the Blitz or the mini battle royale mode could be like the multiplayer, so it automatically chose the multiplayer, so you have to change it manually, right? So these are the main things. And also you can uncheck it or check the box later, like the automatically key mapping, automatically display the key mapping tips. Okay, so that's your personal choice. You could check that box on automatically, or you could done that manually. And also there is a vertical and horizontal mouse pointer sensitivity settings. So if your mouse has low DPI, so for that. And also there is a brightness for if you don't have any monitor settings brightness available. So that's all for now. Today I'll be saying that if you are really getting help from this video, please comment down below, like this video and subscribe our channel if you haven't yet.